I need a volunteer named Andrea sitting in the first row to help me. No, you can keep sitting, because later on you have to look at this screen, and if the guy or the lady preparing her laptop for a lightning talk is ready to talk, give me the thumbs up. Yeah, very good. Very good training. So, you want a towel? Now, go on. Why do I carry this towel? Please don't shout it. Raise your hand.
You're not supposed to take them from the home.
Okay. That's a good answer, because every good hitchhiker should know where their towel is. Give him a big hand. That's an excellent answer. 10 points for effort, but you didn't win a towel. Because why shall every hitchhiker know where his towel is?
Every hitchhiker should know where his towel is.
Why? Why do you need a towel when you hitchhike through the galaxy?
So they will be a full brood, and then they will be lent whatever else they need.
No, no, no.
So you can hide from the ravenous bug-letter beast as well?
Yeah! You can hide from the ravenous blood-bladder beast of trial. I have to take it from the writing. And he won a towel.
eBay.
Woo! So, we start with a joke that worked for years. How many Germans does it take to change a light bulb? 1. We are efficient, not funny. So, some jokes are prepared for the session, but they are not tested. I didn't even write tests. But Vince Knight came up and told me, don't worry, Harold, I got you covered. Please give him a big hand. Our first lightning talk. And he found a way to test if jokes are funny.
Okay, did anyone laugh out of politeness for Harold's jokes there? Great, cool. So every year there's the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. It's a festival. Comedians go, something happens, and the BBC write an article where they say what was voted the top 10 funniest jokes. So I just deleted all the German names off my phone. It's Hans Free is the funniest joke of the year. So I've done a couple of things with this, and I'm going to tell you one of the ones I did. Was I grabbed all the data, 5 years worth. I know that picture says since 2014, but in fact I've got up to 2015. And I used scikit-learn to build a, actually the NLTK, Natural Language Toolkit, to build a model for what is deemed funny or not. So I'm not good in social situations. I often laugh at jokes. When Harold told me to do this now, I thought it was a joke. But now I can use this Jupyter notebook to tell me if what someone said is funny or not. The idea was that you take a bunch of data. This is the general idea about supervised learning. You take all your data as its natural language. You build a dictionary of the words. You build your classifier. In this case, I use a Bayesian classifier. And then you can take new data, put it through the classifier, and it'll tell you whether or not it's funny. So I use pandas and NLTK. Again, Python's wonderful because that's all you need. I read in all the data. So we see some jokes there. Something about Kim Kardashian did quite well. I'll keep on going. This is me training the classifier. You see these are the words in our dictionary. German is there again. Extract the features. And so this allows us to find out what sort of words are in a joke. And then we can find out, depending on the words that are in a joke, whether or not it was deemed funny. I deem a joke to be funny if it's in the top 5 of that list. But obviously that can change. So I've got my funny threshold there, that can change. So that decides whether or not a joke is funny. You create these labeled features. It's a whole list of all the features that it contains, the words it contains, and whether or not it was deemed funny. And then you build your classifier. So this is in effect the thing that does everything else. And here you can get some information. So sorry, the screen's not quite right. Whether or not it contains a particular word, whether or not it's funny. So if it contains the word sex, that's funny. So in honor of this morning, how does NASA organize their company parties? They plan it. That's funny, so you should laugh. Right? Why is 10 afraid of 7? Because 7, 8, 9, I'm a mathematician. That's not funny. So I wrote this up in a blog post. I'll tweet it out in case anyone wants to read in a bit more detail. But here is what Harold started off with. Some jokes are untested. In fact, I did not even write tests. Let's see if that's funny or not. It's not. Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much. Paul, can you go? Okay, I need Mark Andre already on the staging area. Oh, Yapuko. Cool. Some people ask me how I came to Birmingham. Oh, you don't have a projector?
I don't need one, no.
Oh, cool. I was using Schrödinger Airlines. Or fly, maybe. Maybe they fly not. I think that won't score. But the good thing is, as soon as we got voice recognition, I can replace the audience by that script from Win. So, wonderful. Give a big hand to our next speaker, Paul Ross. How we pass Team Pandas.
It may look like a lightning talk from down there, but it feels like a blood sport up here. Okay, I'm going to talk about pandas. Pandas data frames and using that. How many people use pandas regularly? It's amazing. Quite a good look at you. It's an amazing bit of software. It's just stormed the world as far as data analysis are going, that kind of thing. I use it every day. I've worked on the source code. I've segfaulted it or found segfaults in it. I've patched it, but I really like it. But I'm going to talk pandas over here and something I'm going to call the thing over here, and I'll explain what the thing is. Panda's a pretty cool software project. It's about 250,000 lines of code, so it's starting to get quite big and unwieldy. Okay, it's really well documented. So's the thing. Pandas is so well documented, it's got a gotchas page. Sorry, scratch that. It's got 17 gotchas page. Okay. If you use pandas a lot, particularly the recent versions, you find it has some really quirky behavior, which is starting to make me wonder how it compares with the thing. For example, pandas recently changed its resampling behavior. So I had a financial model that would take prices, and it suddenly meant this default behavior changed, that my model knew the end-of-day prices at 8 o'clock in the morning. I can tell you, if you know the end-of-day prices in any equity at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're going to be a billionaire in a day. That just doesn't happen. Changing default behavior so that the future is apparent, just don't do that, pandas. Please don't do that. Okay? The thing is designed by professionals. Doesn't happen. Okay. I'm going to read in, say, 1 million data points of the FTSE data. Pandas, it takes 64 megabytes to get that into memory. The thing just takes 8. I want to change that FTSE London data to compare it with New York data. I've got a time zone shift on that. Pandas, 1 million points, takes 20 seconds. Wow. It's a long wait for a time zone shift. The thing, 1/10 of a second. I'm sorry, 30 microseconds. I have access to the thing, and I have access to pandas. Okay? The thing has been around for a lot of years, but only a few people have access to it. It's been designed by financial professionals. It hasn't had a bug report for 18 months. It deals with billions of dollars of financial instruments as we speak, day in, day out, deals with terabytes of data. So my question to you, really, is that if you had access to the thing as something that was complementary to pandas, an alternative data frame thing, would that be of interest? Because I might just know someone that might just make that happen. So how many of you, if you could put your hands up, would like an alternative way of dealing with time series data frames apart from pandas? Anyone want to stick their hands up? Whoa, almost all the people I think that use pandas. Anyone not interested in this? They're quite happy with pandas. It would be open source, GPL, something like that. Okay? So it seems like there's some interest there. I just happen to know a CTO. I'm going to tell him those numbers. Thank you very much. Woo!
Thank you. Rob Smallshare, please set up. Some organizational things. Those who speak, please stay near the microphones or take the handheld microphone. And we have 2 more overflow rooms, CC 1.1 and CC 1.2. They were locked. Seth found the unlock keys in a box in the basement, and he had to kill 3 monsters. So you can now go up there. And I need Colleen Moore-Hill on the staging area. You already here? Okay, our next talk will be 10 things I hate about Python. I'm quite sure you are encoding in binary, so it's essentially what other people call 2 things. But give him a big hand.
This is definitely base 10, and this is the short version of my talk, 100 things I hate about Python. We have 30 seconds for each one. From decimal, import decimal. From fraction, import fraction. What's wrong with this? It's wrong. There's an S. Why is there an S here? Integer floor division, which you're all using. 7/3 is 2 1/3, or 2, floored. -7 floor division 3 is -3. We round them down. Now let's try that with decimal. Decimal 7, floor division decimal 3, is still 2. Let's do that with -7 and decimal 3, and we get -2. The floor div operator on decimal does not do floor division. As a result, decimal is not a real number. I don't know what it is, but it's not a real number. This is the most complex one. You all use metaclass, the ABC metaclass, I'm sure, for virtual base classes. Let's define a new exception type in Python, programmer error, which subclasses exception and uses the ABC metaclass. We're going to register a virtual base class. We're going to register programmer error as a virtual base class of assertion error. Well, now we've done this, that hooks into this is subclass mechanism, and assertion error is a programmer error. With me? Now let's try and catch an assertion error by raising an assertion. What happens here? Is it going to print programmer error? No, it is not, because Python's exception handling mechanism does not use is subclass to detect whether your exception is a subclass. Tuple is a sequence. Great. String is a sequence. Great. This means we should be able to predict the properties of tuple and string from the fact that they're a sequence. In fact, they behave in completely different ways. Do this experiment with some other sequences and be surprised. I really hate this. Its time has come, and we should all be doing this. Actually, if you want to work on an unmaintained dynamic language, Perl 5 is more maintained than Python 2. Ah, yes. This is a new feature in Python 3.4 or 3.3, I think, an is integer method on floats. Extremely useful. I'm not joking, it is actually extremely useful. However, it's not implemented for the other number types. It would take 2 minutes to implement this for int. I hate people who do this. Why does everybody want to indirect their access to the NumPy library through a module reference? Why aren't you just importing the functions you use into the current namespace? This drives me nuts. Just a stylistic thing, and I realize it's a problem with people rather than a problem with Python. I hate you all. You all familiar with ordered dict in the wonderful collections module? What happens next? Think about it. Isn't it annoying that keyword argument order is not preserved? Even though ordered dict in Python 3.5 is now finally written in C. So we should just switch the internal argument machinery over to use ordered dict or something like it. I think PyPy already does this. I can't remember what number 2 is. Let's see. Ah, yes. Why doesn't this work? It doesn't work because pairwise isn't in itertools. Even though we ship pairwise with every Python distribution and have done for years, it's only in the documentation. I have to copy and paste this every time, along with 22 other really useful functions we've been shipping with Python for years, but only in the documentation. Please, can we put the itertools recipes into itertools? I want you all to... I want you all to tweet this to Guido van Rossum now. How is it that this does not work? Incredible. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob, I've got a very idea you should try. If life gives you lemonade, try to make lemons. Life will go, what? Okay, please set up Mark Andre Lemberg to the staging area. And I guess you're working with PowerPoint. You can set up talking. Have you ever been asked, do you know PowerPoint? The correct answer is, I excel at it. Word. Yeah, correct. Who's there? Race condition. Already?
Yeah,
good.
I'm fast.
Please give a big hand for Untwisting Mersenne Twister with Mark Andre Lemberg.
So sorry guys, this is not going to be funny. So what is Mersenne Twister? Does anybody know? A few. It's the standard default random number generator that we have in Python. So you should probably know something about it. It's a special kind of random number generator. It's one that has a hugely long period. Period means that it doesn't repeat itself. That number, the period, if you write it down, it has more than 6,000 digits. So there's, well, if you use it, you're not going to see the same sequence again in a long, long while. It has an internal state of 624 bytes, which is quite a lot for a random number generator. But as we've seen on a recent discussion on Python ideas, it's not a crypto RNG. So if you use this for crypto work, then whatever you're doing will become hackable, will become attackable. So, and that's basically what I want to address here in this lightning talk. Just give you a bit of information of how it works. So I'm not going to go too much into the details. Basically, how it works is you have this internal state. You take a number from that internal state. You put it through something called a tempering mapping, which is something that's needed to fix the statistical properties of that number generator, and then you get an output number. And then every now and then you do this twisting, that's where the name comes from, in the internal state, and so you create new internal state. So what does it look like in the implementation? Well, first you have the integers, 32-bit integers. Then you have this mixing state. I'm not going to go into the details here. This is just how it looks. Then you have the tempering method. That does a few manipulations of whatever you get from the internal state, and then you create an output. So if you want to hack the Mersenne twister, what do you have to do? Of course, you have to get at the internal state of that random number generator. And the way to do it is to undo the tempering that we've just seen. So undo this part. Now, undoing that well, it's a bit tricky, but it can be done. So basically, you define all these different functions here. If you do that in Python, it looks a bit like this. You cannot read that. OK, so we skip it. And the second one is this one. So you undo those methods, and then you can get from the data, from the output data back to the internal state. So you get, for each output byte that you have, you get 1 byte of internal state. So you need 624 output bytes from your sequence, and then you can determine the internal state of your random number generator. So what can we do with that? We can basically take any kind of sequence that you get from a random number generator in Python, and then synchronize a new one to it. And you can use that, of course, to hack certain things. And I'm going to try a demo now. So let's see whether this works. This is too bad. Let me do this differently. Just a second.
Somebody hacked your font.
Is that better? Yeah. Yeah, OK. So this is the code. Basically the same stuff that I just had on the slide. You couldn't read. So this is those two functions again. Then you recover the state. You extract the state. You clone the RNG, the random number generator. And this part down here is where I'm going to show that it actually works. So what you do is you generate some random numbers. And you print it, and then you clone the random number generators, and then for checking, you generate more random numbers with both random number generators, and you compare the two down here. So let's run this. So you see this, the hex sequence here is just 10 values there. Magic happens, so it already cloned the random number generator, and what you get is exactly the same thing. So now you have, without knowing the state of that first random number generator, you've cloned it and created a second one. And you can use this for hacking gaming sites or, I don't know, financial sites, whatever. That's it. Thank you.
Wonderful! Did you understand the good news? Marc-André Lemberg is a very honored member of the EuroPython Society, and it's always a challenge to find sponsors for the EuroPython conference. And now we have a way to get all the poker sites on the internet, which are based on Python, to sponsor the EuroPython conference. That's great news, really great news. I also need Richard Kellner on the staging area, and Björni. Björni? Good. Very good. Django Girls. Promo or Romo?
Roma.
Roma. Django Girls Roma. Give him a big hand.
I guess I'm not the best person to present Django Girls. We have Ola here, Ola and Tomek here, so they know much better than me. But in 2 words, is worldwide initiative to introduce women to programming and to empower them to be able to work in this industry and also to know this industry. And
Since up until now, there were no Django Girls workshop in Italy, but in December, on 12th of December, we will organize one in Rome. The target is 30 women and having like 10 tutors and mentors to help them to go through the great Django Girls tutorial to help them to learn programming Python and Django, obviously. And these are the 3 girls from my team that organizing this with the support with other communities, Pyroma and Codemotion in Rome, which helped us securing the conference location. So if you want to have more information, these are the contacts. If you want to be a mentor, please contact the organization. If you have women friends that want to participate, to join, write also. And yeah, I hope to see some of you in Rome in December. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, very good. Very good, very good. Who's been to the fantastic speech of Simon Sheridan this morning? Do you remember what he was telling us about how they were around that comet for 400 days and getting nearer and getting nearer? I'm wondering if there are any stalking laws concerning comets. And then they picked the landing sites, and nobody checked with the authorities of the comet of immigration laws. They just discussed, take we a flat one or take we a hilly one and go we to the left or the right. Nobody asked them if they have to stay on the side they entered the comet. You have to stay on its side and get registered there. Are you registering?
Well, it doesn't seem working, but
You take a moment more.
no, well, I will manage with that.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Richard Kellner, Slovak Python User Group.
Hi, my name is Richard, and I would like to share my Python story with you. I'm not an English speaker, so I hope you can bear with me these few minutes. A couple of years ago, I started to work with Python, but unfortunately, apart 2 colleagues of mine, I wouldn't been able to meet any Python person in real life. So I decided to change it, and earlier this year, I went to DjangoCon in Cardiff, which was a really great event, and I liked it. I really felt welcome there, even I came there alone, and I have a lot of fun there. So I have decided to bring some of this power back home, and we set up a Slovak Python user group, which we are having regular monthly meetings. So I managed to meet some of the people in real life back at home. But that was just the beginning of the story. On this meeting, we agreed that we managed to get the PyCon to Slovakia. So we will have first official PyCon in Slovakia in March 2016. So once you return from the Namibian one in February, you can visit us in March. So we will have a website on pycon.sk or sk.pycon.org, and yeah, you can find all the details. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard. Colin, can you please set up? So I've got a more complicated joke. I'm trying to procrastinate, but I can't really get started. Well, it's all about the timing. I'm trying to procrastinate sex, but I can't really get started German. I'm just tricking the script of Win. So. But always remember, success is 1% inspiration, 98% transpiration, and 2% attention to details. Our next speaker, Colin Moorhill, about Civic Reactor. Give him a big hand.
Right, those of you who were here last year would have known the competition to see how many people could do a lightning talk with the most number of gadgets that came up. I won. I had 3. But part of that discussion sparked a long-seated reaction to stuff that had happened in places that I'd worked, like the transport police. So this is my part of following on from Daniela's great speech earlier on about empowering people and making things happen. What are we civic? Civic is a sense of duty and empowerment to make efforts to directly affect people, what they work, what they do, and try and empower them to solve problems and interact with their communities and institutions in a democracy. Being Reactor, and we're trying to be a catalyst and an instigator for change and reaction. So rather than people going out and waving placards saying, why me, or what's wrong, it's finding the problem, finding a group of people that can fix that problem and try and make it better. So when we're talking we have to make cuts here, there, and everywhere, trying to figure out what's causing the shortages and do something to rectify them. Why am I trying to do this? It's to try and inspire civic power to be used for public empowerment, to make people want to make a difference in their own societies. I have a big bugbear with our current education system. It took me till I was 30 to go and get a degree, because in my younger days I was a bit reckless. Most people go to university and drink. I went and drank and forgot the education bit. So following on from that, I've always had a deep desire and love of working with computers. And I've found in a lot of areas that people who have the skills and the tenacity to use computers generally fall off the sidelines with various rationales, either misdemeanors in their youth or mental disabilities that mean they're really, really good at maths, and talking about Rain Man and all those kind of things, but will never get into college to get a degree, to get into an industry like ours. Yeah, we'll go back to the bit about the fact we need cuts. Part of the problem I had which stimulated this was the fact that I worked with the police and I saw large corporates coming in showing people who didn't know what to do about computers how they could take more money off them by implementing computing in their way, while there was people like myself, independent contractors, brought in to try and help as QAs to organize the system, to make it flow better, to then find out that we were sidelined because, well, yeah, but the big guys know what they're doing because they've done these big projects before. What do you know? And I said, it doesn't take a genius to realize that an XSD can be done in 3 days, not 3 months. So that's the stimulation of this civic reactor action that I'm trying to do. Some examples of where I see it making a difference is, there's an example of a phone app which was requested by the Mexican government. And a big corporation said, yeah, we can do that, it'll take 6 months, 9 million quid, don't worry about it, it'll work. A community like ours turned around and said, this is bloody ridiculous. I'll tell you what, I'll put up a prize of £9,000 for the first person to come up with an app that could do this in the next 3 days. So obviously, people went all the way around to Mexico, went into their little hackathons and stuff, came back with 150 apps, 5 of which were used, £9,000, thank you very much, and the other money was put back into the coffers of the government to be spent somewhere else. That is the kind of drive and desire that I'm trying to initiate with the civic reactor. Looking ahead as to what we might do in the future, I'd like to get into things like open source. So when we build something, we create a community, like the Python community, that has developers, designers, engineers, people who don't know what a computer is, but know how the medical systems work, how the political systems work, how the financial systems work, and how we can create a form of revolution, kind of, to show how we, the people, can create a government of the people, by the people, for the people. please sign up and show your interest in Civic Reactor. We have a very simple page. Hopefully it's here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colin. I need Ben Webb on the staging area. And Björni, please set up. And I also need Jarek Piorkowski on the staging area. Jarek. And I need Ben Nuttall. Oh, Jarek? No, Jarek comes from the back. Oh, people pouring in from the overflow. Wonderful, wonderful. I traveled this year again, and I went to the United States to a conference, but to adjust to the timing difference and the weather and to get my cold, I arrived a week early. And with another organization I'm a member of, they had an event going to a shooting range. And if you know the German gun laws, it's nearly impossible to get a gun and to shoot it. So I was in Washington. There's a National Rifle Association, and they've got a shooting range. And the people from my other organization had it happening there, so I went there to shoot with them. I had to arrive early to get a security briefing and to do a test about what I learned about a security briefing. Now, my English is not too bad. At least I can make bad jokes with it. Anyway, in that security briefing, they were talking about the sight. So I know the word sight. I have good eyesight because I've got an operation and something. I never knew that sight is the word that's used for the thing you put on the target with your gun, the thing. So, but there was a question about sight, top and down, on the questionnaire. So I had to deduct from the context without knowing the word to answering the answer. And it worked out. So I was very proud. And a little bit worried if you don't know the words and you can still fill out the form correctly and win. They checked my ID, in fact, but less thoroughly than in the evening when I went to a bar and ordered a pint of beer. They checked my ID much more thoroughly when I went in there, and I got some friends from the Mensa. They brought a whole range of guns for me, so I shot every one of them and did it. So, Ben, maybe try it in the break and we do it tomorrow. Jarek, are you ready? Get on it. So, it was a real intense experience to be there in the shooting range, in the belly of the beast of the National Rifle Association, and it was quite fascinating. And talking with the friends from the organization, I really got the feeling about what could be nice and why so many people are fascinated. And when I went to the speakers conference in Washington, I was very happy that we have strict gun laws in Germany. And why? You will learn, but now you will learn how to bring car-to-go maps to life with Jarek.
Yeah, thank you. I hate to take in on the time for good German jokes about American people. But sure, I will go now. So I put car-to-go in the title for benefit of people from the continent mostly, who may be more familiar. The service is less common in the UK, and the stuff I'm doing isn't car-to-go specific. It's not system specific, though it is, I think, the most popular service, and it's the first service I modeled, so I put that on. So what is car-to-go, you will ask? And basically, free-floating, one-way per minute car hire. People are probably going to be more familiar with the cycle hire systems. It's like cycle hire, but for cars. The services usually have websites. The websites list available cars. You can take screenshots. But we know the trouble with one-way trip services. They're great, but it's like peak hour on transport, and the transport doesn't drive back. So you end up with stuff like this, where you have absolutely nowhere to dock or to get a bike, or in this case, get a car. There's supposed to be service on this entire map. There isn't really. Here's another sample of some poor unlucky soul in Portland who has really bad luck. So you can, screenshots like that are pretty fun. You can upload them to Reddit, get karma. But they're one-time screenshots, so you can't really. So how do we make it more fun? Well, we can animate it. So let's take a look at the website again, and we can take a look at how's it doing things. Well, it's pulling things in from an API. This is looking pretty promising. It's got a lot of data. With some judicious use of cron and a simple script to download things, we can get quite a lot of data. The data looks like this. It's got all sorts of interesting information, including latitude, longitude, and an unique ID. So we can reproduce stuff so that it will look like this instead. So this is API data reproduced using a script. So sorry, that's not supposed to go there. Okay. So with some more scripting and some animation encoder and a couple thousand frames later, we can get an animation like this that shows the use over time. You will see that it's now the morning peak rush. Cars are moving into central city. There's less cars where people are commuting from. If you skip to the evening, you will see cars leaving the central area, immediately heading over there to the east where the nightlife areas are. And it's a neat animation. It shows where people are going. It's a nice overview of the system and how it actually works, and it's more reliable than a one-time screenshot. So that was pretty neat. The really exciting part, is that my code is open source. Yay! I'm not saying it's good code, but it's not terrible. It's got a README. The README is too long, if anything, so I apologize. You can set it up to download your own stuff. You can set it up to add more cities. We currently have support for a whole bunch of systems. Adding new ones isn't terribly difficult. You should do it. You can collect your city. You can analyze your city. Let's collect all the data. Thank you. My contact information is on there. Thank you.
Woo! Thank you very much, Ben Webb. Sorry, Jarek. Wonderful. So, one question, Jarek. I'm from Stuttgart, and it was the first city with Car2Go. And we know it's from Mercedes, and you got BMW in the data.
Yeah, BMW is doing one too now, because they can't be worse. It's called Drive now.
Ah, so you can hack both systems. That's great.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Yeah, so it does both
wonderful.
systems.
Is Ben Webb already? Yeah, get here. Wonderful. So, in that conference, there were a lot of talks about business development and very things. And one thing that always wondered me, we know Apple is one of the most secretive companies in the world. You have to sign NDAs, and nobody going in or out knows anything real in there. Anyway, everybody finding some new method to do some kind of business or some new word says, Apple is doing exactly this. And 3 different theories were all founded on Apple, which I was quite funny because nobody has any insight what they're really doing. And the other thing is, while they explain those new theories, they always talk about Steve Jobs as if he's the second coming of Jesus. So that's the way when I'm very, very happy that German gun laws don't allow me carrying a gun, because it's simply not worth it. Ben Webb, you're still fighting?
I'm struggling.
You're still fighting?
Yeah.
Okay, so Ben Nuttall, you're in the first line. And I learned yesterday that I'm an honorary member of the PyChoke Society. Woo! I was very proud. And yeah, maybe another time. And you're getting the setup. So I need Geoff French on the staging area. And I need what? Deep fish learning, deep learning. But we don't do them after each other. No. I need Jonathan Fine. Jonathan? No, Jonathan? Maybe he's in the overflow room. Jonathan, can I channel you from the overflow room?
He's behind you!
Woo! And Nick was telling the children that the guy with the Royal and Awesome pants, which is a British golf brand, has superpowers, and I really managed to channel Jonathan Fine. Yeah, get up, Ben Nuttall. Wonderful, wonderful. And on a more positive note, to keep in a good mood, watch a sunrise at least once a day. Ben Nuttall about PyChokes. Give him a big hand.
Hi, I'm Ben from Raspberry Pi. I got invited last year to a conference. This is its logo. I wasn't sure how to pronounce it until I got there, but they confirmed that it is actually PISS. Python San Sebastian in Spain. And I met these guys who are the organizers, Alex, Oya, and Borja. You may know these if you were at EuroPython this year. They said to me when I met them, they said, we were at EuroPython this year in Berlin, this was last year, and the food was rubbish. We're going to do a much better. We're going to organize EuroPython next year, and the food will be much better. So they did organize EuroPython next year, but it was just Pinchos, and it was not better. But they're good guys. They're funny. At the conference, we didn't have the Lightning Talk man, but we had Lightning Talks. And we were sort of joking around and saying, oh, you know, we kind of need some filler in between the Lightning Talks. We need some jokes. You know, this should be in Python. There should be something in Python where you can import the jokes, and you just have kind of a supply of jokes to use in between Lightning Talks. And then we had a few drinks, and I went home, and this happened. And yeah, I did a kind of a basic implementation that evening and published it. And you can now, so you pip install PyJokes, and then there's a command line usage, which is PyJoke, and you'll get something like this. Why did the programmer quit his job? Because he didn't get a raise. I didn't say they were good jokes. Okay. He left more at that. Or you can directly in your Python program, you can import PyJokes and use either getJoke or getJokes to get the whole list. And there's a few categories in there. There are Chuck Norris themed jokes as well. We're looking for some more. So at EuroPython this year, the guys I showed before were organizing it, and we said, you know, we haven't worked on PyJokes for a while. We need to do a bit more work and add some jokes and add some languages and things. And we formed the PyJoke Society. So we're the founding board of the PyJoke Society, and as Harold said, he's an honorary member. How could he not be? We have a website. We got an amazing domain, pyjoke.es. It's a Spanish project, so it totally makes sense. So check that out. We've got this amazing logo drawn by Sam Alder from Raspberry Pi. I made a little Twitter bot, so pyjokes_bot. You can follow that, and you'll get the same jokes repeated at you over and over again every hour. So if you want to not have these jokes repeated, then contribute some. We also have amusing GitHub issues. So somebody filed this issue saying cannot get joke. The function is called get joke, but I don't get it. So go on to GitHub, pyjokes/pyjokes. We need more jokes, more languages, and we have a test suite and everything, and it's all good. Maybe we should use the test suite from the first Lightning talk to see if they're any good. Absolutely. Thank you.
Wonderful. I guess that's set up. Are you ready? Okay, so you can do it in browser. So Jeffrey, if you leave your laptop connected, oh, you have the lot to connect. Very good. Do you all know that you can learn a lot about a woman by reading her biography? What? You didn't get it? You can learn a lot about a woman by reading her biography. And you can improve that joke if you say you can learn a lot about the sex life of the woman by reading her German biography, because sex life and German both give a point in Vince's checking of funniness. Okay, Geoffrey.
Hi, I'm going to present deepish learning. I've also done projects Larch and G-Sculpt. Well, what is it? Well, it uses deep neural networks. No doubt you've heard of deep neural networks being used by companies like Google and Microsoft to take over the world. I, however, have decided to use them to take the piss instead. This is the undignified bit. Yeah, it made it go angry.
You can sell this to actor school.
Well, as for the application, well, there is a one. I want to introduce Mark Smith's awesome ish library. You see, what it does is it fixes Python's default flawed behavior. I mean, check this out. We say if the string true, it's true. But if false, what? That's not true, that's false. Well, ish fixes it by making Python behave a lot like some more sensible languages, such as Perl and JavaScript. And it does it like this. If true is equal to true-ish, and if false is equal to false-ish. Now that's better. Thank you, Mark, because that's awesome. But we can do more. This is Mark's genius. I think it's great. And it got me thinking. So I am proud to present deepish learning. And I want to thank these guys for being good sports and letting me use their photos. So to give you an idea of what that does, it's an attempt at making Python more emotionally responsive. Think about it. We're going to improve Python's default behavior and make it more emotionally responsive. I think to a lot of people that's going to be pretty surprising. Often, using Python as default way can make people very angry. It can also cause terrible frustration and more anger. By making Python more empathetic with its user, we're going to turn all those frowns into nice, smiling, happy faces. Thank you very much.
Artificial Learning by Geoffrey French. This morning in the communication queue, that's the thing where we stand until we get breakfast, I met a very polite and friendly recruiter, Abby, and so we were talking about Python, the world, recruitment, and I wondered if we start building artificial intelligences and maybe give them some rights. Will there be recruiters for artificial intelligences, and what will they provide them? Hey, we have really good power. Come to our data center. Our bits are the cleanest. You can artificial intelligence in Python. Ben Webb about Python shell tips. Give him a big hand.
So this, yeah, it's not displaying quite properly, but I'll do it anyway. So it's a whistle-stop tour of commands, flags, and keyboard shortcuts that I'd wish I'd known about earlier. So the first one is readline, which is the thing that Bash and the Python shell and the MySQL shell and the Postgres shell all use to have some interactivity on the line you're on. So there's a whole bunch of shortcuts that for interacting with that line that if you learn make your life with any sort of shell a whole lot easier. So the big stuff is you can do undo, you can do line up and line down with Control and P and N rather than the arrow keys, which means you don't have to move away from the middle of the keyboard. And a big one's Control R, so that you can search back through the history. And you can do that in Bash, and you can do that in at least IPython as well. And I find that makes using the shell a lot quicker. All these key bindings look a bit like Emacs, but if you put a line which is missing from this, but just a single line in your input RC, you get VI style key bindings instead, which is quite nice if that's what you prefer. So the next tool I'd suggest that I wish I'd known about earlier is HTTP. So again, the name of the package is missing, but it's HTTP and then pi with an E on the end, so HTTP and then an IE. And basically it gives you a HTTP command that behaves like curl would if it was actually designed for being easy to use for debugging stuff. So you get to use the actual HTTP verbs, so you just get to type HTTP get or HTTP post. You get the headers by default because that's generally what you want when you're debugging stuff. You get syntax highlighting with color. If you look at JSON, it automatically indents that for you. It's got a really nice, easy to remember syntax for passing arguments or headers to it. So if you just want to hit something, it'll do that. And if you pass it to something with a pipe, it knows the default that you don't want it to pass all that color formatting or the headers. So it just basically behaves roughly how you'd expect. The next tool I found really useful is auto jump. So this just gives you a command called J that's basically like CD on steroids. So you set it up and it hooks into every time you change directory in your shell. It records this and logs it in a database, and it knows what you do most frequently. So then you can just type J and any substring fragment of a directory you want to change to, and it will take you to that directory. So it just makes jumping around the file system in the shell a lot quicker. And it's clever enough to have some state so that if you run it once and you're in the wrong place, if you run it again, it will try the next best. So again, just makes navigating around the shell a lot easier and quicker. The next one is TIG, which is Git but spelled backwards, and that's a really nice middle ground for a tool that's command line based but offers you a bit more interactivity and a few more, and coloured output, a lot of information that you can very quickly get at about a repo just by running a command line command. And I particularly like take --all, which will show all of the branches on there. So it's now the big command I use to go, what's going on in this repo. IPython is great because it's colored output, makes reading stuff much easier. I kind of find useful because it lets you run a command with Python and then drops you into the shell once it's finished so that you can interact with the stuff in there. So it's basically equivalent to doing that and then import, but it's just a lot easier to type. And then pytest.-- is the one I'll finish on because it just drops you into a Python debugger from the test, which is often what you want.
Woo! Ben, thank you so much. Jonathan, fine, please set up. I need Danny Staple or Stale or something with STA on a staging area. It's not so clear from the writing, but he found himself.
I'm ready to go.
Jonathan, fine. No, you won't wire up? No, Jonathan, fine. With the smallest projection area ever and talk about the smallest networking cable. Woo!
This is not a talk about this is not a talk about Python.
Go to the microphone or.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm very thank you. This is not a talk about Python. It's not even a talk about software. It's a talk about hardware. This is a Google Chromebook. I'll just put it here. I have to put it here because I have to stay by the microphone. This one cost about £220. They're being very widely used in North America, in US schools. Approximately 1/3 of the computers shipped to US schools are Chromebooks. And in 5 years' time, I think it might be something like 60 or 70%. Now, they're very interesting devices, but it's because you cannot, they're useful, unless you put them in the highly dangerous developer mode, which gives you root access, unless you do that, you can't install software on them. So the only way to run software is to download an app or to connect to a server. What if there's no server to connect to? Or if there's no server that runs the software you want? You're stuffed. It's a technical term. So what are you going to do? It only works if it's connected to a server. And what do you think I've got in this bag? A server. As hardware, Raspberry Pi, USB dongle thing. Now, the Raspberry Pi needs power. Hardware. Come on. What's going on here? It's difficult stuff, hardware. And this device needs to be connected to a computer somehow. So why is this so difficult? And finally, we've got to connect this USB dongle to this Raspberry Pi, for which we need a network cable. And I think this is the shortest network cable in the world. So let's do that. And because it's hardware, we can't do a software test. So, if I can find the right place, I will plug this into this. This is not connected to any network I control. Let me plug this in, and with any luck, you'll see some blinking lights. It's a Raspberry Pi booting up. This is now connected to a network server. So all I need is the right software on here, and the fact that this is a lockdown device doesn't bother me because I've got my real computer with me. Now, don't think it's just the United States. This is a computer in which you cannot install software, just like a Windows PC in a classroom in the school if you're a teacher. So I'm interested in getting this little idea working and going, and I'm here on Monday. That's it.
I need Alex PB on the staging area, and that's Danny, and he'll be talking about boilerplate multiprocessing and fork bomb, something like that. And I've got some question or some thing I would like you to ask. We can do crowdsourcing of moderation. There's the email address, jokes@lightningtalkman.com. So if you have a joke and a test for the joke, or joke alone is good enough, just mail them to jokes@lightningtalkman.com. And now I'll give a big hand to Danny.
Hi. All right, so boilerplate isn't generally the most interesting subject, or multiprocessing. However, experiments with multiprocessing and boilerplate can lead to how to not make an exponential fault bomb in 10 lines. I've got a slightly visual demo of what that looks like, at least inside your computer memory, in terms of processes. Looks something like that. Which is exponentially growing, and I'll leave that going as I carry on. I don't know what that did there. There we are. Right, okay. There isn't a lot of boilerplate that's required in Python. Some of it's just, well, it's all just best practices. The if name main is a best practice. You don't have to do it. In fact, no boilerplate at all to do anything. But it's kind of handy with the I'm not going to do anything unless I'm run from the command line. If my module has any other name than main, it's not going to do stuff. So I had a bit of an exercise in some mapping where I had lots of data, I don't know, tens of thousands of files I needed to do from one thing to another. And I was giving someone a demonstration on how they do it. So I threw together a contrived example. And since we were kind of going to be using machines with many cores, which even your phone has many cores, then I use multiprocessing. From multiprocessing input pool, you get a pool of workers. You can say, right, I'm going to get these n workers to do this mapping task n times, so you're not doing it all through one core. So I wrote this code. So at the top, I've just got the import of the multiprocessing. I've got some mapping function. It doesn't really matter what's going on in there. It's just, it might be CPU bound, it might be IO bound, or what have you. Some input, so I've got a function with some input data, sets up 8 workers, goes and tells the workers to start working with that mapping function on that input data, and prints a list of the results. Then at the bottom, it says to call that function there. Now, the way multiprocessing actually does stuff is it starts up another Python process, or 8 or n, that then imports this module again. And you get this. And you'll notice there it's kind of showing just how many child processes. If you were doing 4 at a time, I was doing 8 at a time. It was one of those moments when I pressed a button expecting to see some answer and went, nothing's happening. And then that sudden, oh, I know what I've just done. It's fairly easy to fix. I mean, just that little bit of boilerplate again. But it's, yeah, very easy to create the exponential fault bomb in about 10 lines.
I think that's a nice ending for today's lightning talks. Always be very careful with exponential developments. We got screwed many, many times before when the civilization went up, exploded, went up, exploded. So always be careful with exponential developments. Those who go to the alternate dinner should be the ones leaving first. The others have 10 more minutes than those leaving for the alternative dinner. Thank you very much. It was a joy to do this day's lightning talks. We'll have a more session tomorrow. I will put out a sign-up sheet. So thank you very much, and give a big hand to all the speakers. Woo!